So here it is set up on the wood lathe. So yeah, I think I'll just use this, and this is just by eye. Yeah, not I'm just gonna kind of narrow it down about here. I'm gonna go a little wider on the actual handle, and then just keep feeling it and see how I like it. So yeah, let's go. All of this turning is just freehand. I'm not that great on a wood lathe, so yeah, it's just kind of going along, feeling it, seeing what's happening. So you have to move this rest out to where you're working. So here's me just doing that. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm trying to try this, it looks smooth finish. That's a ladder. Okay, so now I've got a rough shape. I'm going to go over and I think about saying this, I do the handles and knives, and yeah, get the final shape. And this end I will weave out, I'll do that handle, I'll sand it to the handle. Yeah, I'm looking pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm trying to try this, it looks smooth finish. This tool is the bigger radius on the front means you can get a much flatter, nicer surface. So it's not really finished or anything. I still have to sand it, but it makes it a lot smoother than the smaller radiused one I used in the beginning. Okay, so now I've got a rough shape. I am going to go over and I think I'll belt sand this like I do the handles of my knives, and yeah, get the final shape. And then this end I will worry about, I'll do that by hand on the belt sander to get it to fit the handle. I'm using a 120 grit belt here and just getting this smoothed out. I'm not really removing any material, just making the finish nicer and the transition between the flats on the side and the rounded a little nicer. Okay, so now I have this sanded up. Yeah, so now this is to the way I like it. I like the way that feels. It's a little unconventional to have those kind of flats on the side, but I like the way it kind of falls into your hand. And then so now I'm going to start shaping this end to fit in here. I think I'm just going to use the belt sander, and I kind of sketched a line onto it by just holding this up like this. That just gives me kind of a rough idea. And I'm just going to sand it and just start fitting this on over on the sander until I get it to fit.
Here I've switched to a 60 grit belt because the 120 just wouldn't remove material fast enough. And so yeah, I'm just grinding it down and keep fitting it with the head to yeah, just see where I am, how much more I need to remove.
Okay, so I hand sanded the handle a little bit, and I got this fit up to be pretty good and tight in there. Because this hole I filed to be kind of a taper, it's a little loose in the top, which I'm going to put a wedge of some sort in there, hopefully fills up some of that space. And then I think I'm going to dye some epoxy black and then fill that up with epoxy so it looks, yeah, I think that black will look better than a pin or something in the top. So yeah, I think that's about it. I'm gonna have to oil this handle. I'm not sure if I want to do that before or after I epoxy it up. I'll probably epoxy it and then oil or something like that. So yeah, I will find a wedge of some sort to put in there. Okay, so I made this little wedge, just a piece of 1/8 inch steel. So yeah, let's tap this in here if I have a hammer. Okay, that's in there. This head's not going anywhere. So now I will take some epoxy and fill this up. So yeah, it'll look good. Pretty happy with this. Okay, that's in there. This head is not going anywhere. So now I will take some epoxy and I'm going to fill this up. So yeah, it'll look good. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so I have some just black pigment here so that I can epoxy this in. So yeah, I'm just going to use some 5-minute epoxy.
So I just take a little pinch of it and put it in there. It doesn't take very much. I just stir it in. I'm not sure if all pigments react the same in this epoxy, but this one doesn't do anything harmful to it and still works fine. But I double check it before you put pigment into epoxy you need to hold anything strong with. So I just let the epoxy drip into the crevices, and then I'm using my finger just to wipe away the epoxy on the head around the crevice. It's works pretty well, and I'm not too concerned about it getting out of my hand. But if I'd been smart, I could have taped off the area around it with some masking tape, and that would have made this part a lot easier.
It's looking pretty good, and I just kind of wiped away the excess with my finger, and now I'm just going to let this dry here. and or harden up, I guess. Epoxy doesn't really dry, but then it'll be done. And I actually like this. Kind of got a swirl pattern, and I'm not sure if you can see this. You can see that the kind of swirl pattern in this plastic matches the swirl pattern in the epoxy, which is pretty cool.
So there it is, finished up. This was just a fun project I did over my weekend. Yeah, if you liked it, like it, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.